Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Roadmap for Growing Your Nonprofit. We're pleased to have some terrific guests. Thank you all for joining us. I will be introducing our guest speakers very shortly. Matt Coulter, Tess Srebro, and our very own Jeremy Koenig. A couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. All of you who have joined, you'll see the chat down the left-hand side. We are going to be saving about 10 minutes at least for questions at the end. So please do go ahead and type your questions into the chat, and we will get to them as we get to the Q&A section at the end. Also, if you have any audio issues at any time, you can switch to dial in by phone by choosing the More button in the upper right corner of your screen and then switch to phone. Also, we will be sending out a link to view the recorded version of this webinar along with the slides. So in case you miss anything, you can share those with colleagues or review anything. So again, thank you all for joining us today. Here's our quick agenda. We're going to be going through the 2015 fundraising year in review, branding your nonprofit, effective storytelling, empowering ambassadors, branding your campaign, merchandise, effective volunteer strategies, and top 5 donor engagement solutions right now. So thank you all again for joining us today. First up, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Jeremy Koenig of MobileCause. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome, everyone. This is our 10th webinar of the year, and I just wanted to take a couple of minutes and do a year in review. We have learned so much from successful nonprofits across all segments, every shape and size. And I wanted to do a real high level what works and what has worked and continuing to work as we are in the most busy giving season of the year. Number one, mobile technologies have continued to strengthen all forms of fundraising in 3 specific ways. One, web search. People tend to search nonprofit websites on smartphones before giving. This is more and more common. Social media, people absolutely love to look at pictures and videos of nonprofit work on social media. And third, credit card payments. More and more people are enjoying the convenience of not only buying things for themselves and making purchases on their smartphones, but actually making donations using those same incredible, convenient mobile payment features on smartphones. Number 2, we've learned that every type of donation should be easy to complete on every type of device. 3 main ways we've seen this year. The first, crowdfunding. People absolutely love to donate in support of their friends and family. Millennials, specifically donors under the age of 35, this is their favorite way to give. By 2020, it is projected that this will be more than half of the workforce. So crowdfunding is really, really important. Secondly, in-person gifts. People love to make donations in which they can see the results directly on screen. We have our fundraising thermometer that we use here at MobileCause. If you have a $100,000 goal and you want to make sure you reach that goal, make it as easy as possible for people to give by credit card, by check, by pledge card, by envelope, whatever, and make sure all those donations tally on screen. Third, website donations. It is so important that your nonprofit has a big donate or give button on your homepage that is easy to click on a PC, tablet, and mobile device, and then that goes directly to a secure, responsive web form where people can make donations in seconds with minimal taps or clicks. All right, number 3, what we've learned. Multi-channel marketing drives increased response rates across the board. We've found again and again and again that when nonprofits do a good job of communicating via email, via text message, via social media, and via direct mail, they actually engage the maximum amount of people across all the different demographics, but more importantly, they increase response rates for specifically clicks, subscriptions, shares on social media, as well as response to direct mail. So with that, the 2015 year in review, I'm going to turn it back over to Chris to introduce our first speaker.
Thanks, Jeremy. And again, everybody, welcome to all of you still signing in. A couple of quick notes. We will be sharing the recorded version of this webinar. So in case you miss anything, you can share with your colleagues and re-review. So stand by for that tomorrow. So now I'd love to introduce our first guest speaker, Matt Coulter, who is the Executive Director and co-founder of the Young and Brave Foundation. Welcome, Matt. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to kind of share some of the things that we've been able to do in the last couple of years, and just kind of answer any questions people may have, and kind of go from there.
Well, terrific. And so everyone who's joined us, we do this in all of our webinars, and I encourage you to all of you to review all of our previous webinars. We have a lot of great speakers who talk to us about their actual experiences, their real experiences, building awareness, telling their story for their nonprofit. And that's why we've got Matt, who's done a fantastic job with his team and co-founder. And so first question here is, Matt, could you tell us a little bit about the importance of branding in your nonprofit and how that worked for you?
For us, just a quick background with me. I didn't go to school for nonprofit. I really spent the better part of 10 years before I started my nonprofit in the commercial real estate industry, and really spent a long time looking at different people's business models and different marketing from different people, and was able to transition that into our foundation. We started it when one of our dear friends was diagnosed with leukemia at 26, no insurance, not a huge family support system, and she really turned to us for that support. And going through that process with her, we were dumbfounded by the lack of resources, and decided that we needed to do something. And so we were able to kind of take the tools that I had learned in my previous position to really kind of form the nonprofit that we did, and the Young and Brave Foundation, which you all can take a look at on our website and get a better feel for what we do. But essentially, the thing that we hang our hat on is the streamlining of the fundraising process for families all across the country. Families, kids, basically anybody 40 and under fighting cancer. We provide an online profile, a real simple way for a person's sphere of influence, all their friends and family that want to give. We give them a direct, easy way to do that. And so that's the core of what we do. There's a handful of other things that we do as well, but like I said, that's really what we hang our hat on. And to get into your question, 100% of what we do and why we've had success is because of the marketing and branding that we've done with our foundation. I'm 34 years old. My business partner's 30. And when we started this foundation, we wanted to create something that not only made an impact for our families and the loved ones that we're supporting, but we wanted to give people a way to get involved with something that they felt was tangible, felt like was important, was transparent. And the only way to get people to do that is by branding. You can have the best idea in the world, but if your branding and marketing isn't any good, you're going to be dead in the water, especially in the day and age that we live in now. People want to support a community. They want to be involved in their local area, whether it's helping a loved one, at the church they go, that they go to, the sports team that they play on, somebody their child goes to school with, somebody in their workplace. I'm sure everybody out there has experienced, a friend or a family or a friend of a friend go through something tragic and want to be able to get involved. And essentially that's what we've done. We've given those people a way to be in control of their donations and really give to the person that they want to give to. And for us, it's, every new family, every new, child that we support is another branding opportunity. And that might sound a little bit weird in the nonprofit world, but if you can take the emotion out of it for a moment and really look at, the only way you really engage people is to make something tangible. And the easiest way to do that in the world that we live in today is, by marketing and branding. And so not only do we want to do good, but we want to do it in a stylish way that people see what we're doing and want to be involved and figure out, who exactly is the Young and Brave and what are they doing? And because you're doing it in such a good way, how can you really get involved? And we live right now at such an interesting time. We consume information, whether it's, the TV, the computer, social media. We really live at such a rapid pace now. We consume information so quickly, and especially with things like Snapchat and Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, obviously, we kind of live at these 15-second increments. And so if you can't engage somebody in that 15 seconds, 30 seconds, it's really on to the next. And so if you can figure out a way to effectively do that, I think you can really capture a really big audience, and that really boils down to the marketing and branding of what you're trying to do.
Ask a couple questions, Matt. And so, and again, everyone, thank you for submitting questions. We will get to as many as we can, certainly now and at the Q&A piece. And I guess one question I had for you now is, how do you go about sort of selecting like your brand positioning, right? Like, what did you have like a clear sort of audience or supporter segment or demographic in mind when you were doing so?
Yeah, this is kind of a two-part answer to that. When we started the foundation in 2009, we started it because our friend was diagnosed with cancer. And at that time, at the heart of everything, I think Livestrong was as big as it could be, American Cancer Society and some of these really, really huge institutions. And growing up, when I did, donate money or time, my charity of choice was the American Red Cross. And so they do a fantastic job, but really looking at these bigger business models, I think there was such a disconnect to the donor. And certainly to somebody my age, I've grown up with technology. I had Facebook out of the gate. I had MySpace. I had all these different things. And so I've really been involved in the social media aspect of growth. And so for us, the positioning really was our exact demographic, that 25 to 35 range, because, for us, that's who we were. That's who our friends were. And so that's really where we started, because in that age group, you don't have the 50 and overs. It was really kind of that demographic that, they're starting to have good positions, they have good jobs, and they're starting to think about, okay, I'm doing well for myself, how can I give back? And so really for us, it was about how do you capture that demographic? And really for us, it was if you look at different business models, like let's say like a Tom's Shoes, who's taken the one-to-one business model and gone, okay, if you buy a pair of shoes, we're going to give a pair of shoes to somebody in need. And it was really kind of taking that idea of social responsibility in regards to donations and people making contributions to your fund, so to speak. It was really about how do you take that idea, how do you take those people and capture it. And so for us, it was, that's the biggest, most important part. And that's really where we started in regards to growth. And then it's really kind of expanded from there.
And so like in your, viewpoint from this, like what does branding mean to you? And how do you think everyone listening can apply that?
I really, and this may be a little bit harsh, but to me, branding is everything. Because at the end of the day, people want to be a part of something that they're proud of. And if you can't market what you're doing in a quality way, in a way to get donors to return, anybody can capture a donor once. But then how do you get them to return? And that's the biggest thing for us. And that boils down to, you can boil it down in a couple different ways, but at the end of the day, it all really comes down to the marketing and branding of what you're doing. Because every day we make choices, from the watch that you put on your wrist, to the car that you drive, to the dishwasher soap that you use. It's all branding, it's all marketing, and that's no different when it comes to the nonprofit world. So for us, it's the biggest, most important thing that we do day in and day out.
And so would you say then, again, in terms of branding, it looks like, some of your recommendations are really about having a clear and consistent voice and being authentic and transparent. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you use that in sort of storytelling and communicating to your community.
Yeah, I think those two words, I probably use them too much when I speak and when I share what we do, but transparency and being organic in what you do is really, for us, been the key to success. I think so many people, maybe in the last 10 to 15 years, especially with how we share information now, have maybe been turned off by certain nonprofits and certain, other, social giving platforms, because there's no responsibility in regards to how money is spent from donations. And so for us, it was really about giving the donor control over who they're giving to, and really giving them an avenue to see something tangible and see those tangible results. And so for us, that was a huge part of what we do. And I think it's also about empowering that donor to share what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, people give because they want to help, but people also give because they want to feel good about what they're doing. And, with the platforms that we have now, from Facebook to Instagram to Twitter, Snapchat, people are sharing what they're doing every moment of every day. And being able to instill a little bit of nonprofit and a little bit of good into what those people are doing is something that we've really kind of, used as a huge benchmark for what we do. It's really engaging our donors to share not only about who we are, but the level one that they're supporting. So that's a real big key to what we do.
And so again, just to recap, would you say, like in terms of branding, that maybe the two elements that I'm getting from you is, one, having a super clear vision of who your community is, and then secondly, creating a visual graphic design consistency that really speaks to that specific community?
Absolutely. I think, community is another kind of keyword, hot word, so to speak, for us, because although we do have families from Brooklyn to Hawaii and everywhere in between, we really utilize a person's community, a person's sphere of influence. And so for every new family that we help, the brand new demographic of people that maybe haven't heard about who we are, haven't heard about the Young and Brave, or maybe not what we do. And so being able to capture somebody's community is huge for us, because essentially those, our foundation is interesting. We're kind of twofold in the sense that, yeah, we go after institutional money and grants and things like that, but really, the majority of our donations are coming from a person's sphere of influence. It's not those $50,000 donations, those $40,000 donations. It's really, somebody donating to their loved one, whether it's $1,000 or $100 or $50 or even $5. It's really about capturing that audience and really the key to success for us is being able to utilize somebody's community. And as you utilize that person's community, they then become part of our overall community, so that when we have a new person, a new family that we're helping that maybe doesn't have, a sizable sphere of influence, we can now take our community that we've built through all these different families and all these different loved ones and really be able to share, hey, here's a new family, here's a new child, and hey, we need to get behind this person. We need to help them. And so that's been a huge part of what we do. And I think for anybody's nonprofit, being able to utilize the community that you have, at your fingertips is, that's one of the best tools in your tool belt that you can utilize is being able to take that community and build upon it and get people excited about sharing about, who they're helping, why they're helping, and how, some of their friends can get involved.
And so then talk to us about that. Like how have you guys gone about empowering ambassadors, and how's that worked for you?
For us, for those of you that aren't familiar with our foundation, we have ambassadors all across the country in different parts of the world. Actually, we've even got ambassadors now in Europe and in Australia. And for us, it's we have influencers from professional athletes to bloggers to other influencers, TV personalities, business people, doctors, nurses, kind of the grand scope of different types of people from different walks of life. And for us, this kind of goes back to the hot word that we were talking about earlier, and that's transparency. I think everybody wants to give back on some level, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, and especially in the world of people that have influence. They begin to understand the influence that they have, and a lot of those people use that influence for personal gain, which is totally fine. But as these people grow and as these people see things that are going on in their neck of the woods, they want to get involved. They want to get a way to give back. And so with our ambassadors, it's really been something that we've grown in organic nature. It's kind of been friends of friends, and then somebody hearing about what we're doing. And I think people see how we use community, and they see how we use our network, and they step up and go, hey, this is the group of people that I can influence, and these are the people that I can really help bring to the table. And so for us, it's been giving them a platform to get involved. And I think that, as much as we do for our cancer families and loved ones and people that we're trying to help, the biggest part of what we've also been trying to do is also give not only my generation, like I said, I'm 34, but the generations, that are coming up after us, giving them a way to go, hey, here's a tangible, cool company that's relevant to me, and this is who I give to. And, we've got ambassadors as young as 10 years old. And that may sound silly, but, right now, with the world that we live in, influence is the new currency. It really is. There are people being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to promote different brands just through their Instagram. People that have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 million followers on Instagram are getting paid $15,000, $20,000 a post. That may seem crazy, and maybe you guys don't believe me, but I've actually firsthand seen the checks and seen what some of these people are being paid to influence their influencers. And so for us, it's being able to take that and go, look, this is the good that we're doing in our community, in our world, and here's a platform for you guys to get involved and give back. And so I think our generation and the generations younger than us, they see the influence that they can have, and they can see by simply posting something on their social media how much influence and how much good they can do. And so that's been a huge part of our success. Our foundation definitely doesn't exist in the capacity that it does without utilizing social media. And it's been an effective, cost-efficient way for us to really grow, and it's been, like I said, a huge part of our success.
And now, how do you go about, this word influencer? And maybe, this is probably new to some people, or others are well versed in the phrase. Like, how do you go about, A, could you define an influencer? And then B, tell us how you go about finding them.
So, from an influencer standpoint, that can be anything. I mean, like I said, we've got a 10-year-old snowboarder from Mammoth, and he's incredibly talented. He's on the junior Olympic team, and it was one of those things that a friend of a friend was actually one of the little kids that we were supporting, was one of his friends. And so he reached out to us and was like, hey, my friend Lori is one of your warriors, one of the kids that you support, and I just like to know how I can help. And that really kind of opened the dialogue, and he was able to share on his social media about our foundation, about his friend that was fighting cancer. And so that was kind of the platform for him. It was really him taking that initiative and going, hey, like, I know I want to help my friend, and here's a way for me to do it. And so everything that we've done has been really organic in that. And I think people see the transparency in what we do, and they see the responsibility in how we help our families and what we do. And so for somebody like him, that was the perfect way. And then, we've got TV personalities like Carissa Thompson, that's the host of Extra with Mario Lopez. And we were doing an event at Children's Hospital at UCLA, which we do quite a bit there. And I got connected with her personally there. We became friends, and she's been a huge part of what we do. If for somebody that's on TV every single day, the influence that those people have is incredible. What she shares on Twitter, she's got, I think, like a couple 100,000 followers on Twitter, and really interactive and really engaging. And she's been a tremendous help to what we do. And so, with people like a TV personality, they understand the marketability of giving back, but at the same time, she's doing it for the right reasons. She's not doing it for PR. She's not doing it for press. She's really doing it because she feels like, hey, cancer has affected my life, and I know I have this great platform to inform people about how to get involved and how to give back and how to help other people that need help. And so I think she sees that and wanted to be involved with what we're doing. And then, we've got a couple bloggers. In this day and age, the blogging community is massive. And so we've got a couple young women that are fashion bloggers and heard about what we were doing and loved some of the merchandise that we had and reached out and said, hey, we'd love to help promote, through our blog, and really reach out through our blogging community. And so it's really been one of those things that, for us, I think if you put a good product out there and you're doing stuff for the right reasons, I think people will see that and catch on. And you just have to be willing to embrace that and go, wow, this is a perfect way for us to expand our brand. And like I said earlier, influence is really the new currency. And, being able to, instead of putting let's say, putting an ad in the LA Times or the New York Times or something like that and spending all this money and really kind of doing this blanket marketing, you can really take an influencer, like we have a professional skateboarder, Mikey Taylor, who's one of our ambassadors, and he's got a couple million followers on his social media. And so instead of taking, let's call it, 10 grand to have an ad in LA Times, we can actually go to somebody like Mikey Taylor and have him promote who we are, what we're doing, maybe one of our newest young people that we're supporting, and he can put it out to his influence, to his demographic. And it's very, very specific to the network and the people that he's being able to communicate with. And it's incredibly powerful because those people are following him willingly and because they're fans of his talent, of what he does on the skateboard. And so you can really direct market to people rather than doing this blanket marketing, that maybe isn't quite as effective. Right now, you can really connect with people on a real intimate level because if you're able to get an influencer to believe in what you're doing and they're doing things for the right reasons, that comes through on the information that they share. And it's a great way to get in front of people that you've never heard of before and really be able to expose your brand to a whole group of people that really care about what this person is posting. So that's been, like I said, incredibly powerful and one of our biggest tools.
Fantastic. And I know there's probably a lot of folks that have maybe an older demographic. And so quickly, because I do want to get to some of the tactics that you used and, talk a little bit about hashtags and keywords. But quickly, have you seen some of this stuff, affecting like an older demographic? Like how is this working, for those members of your community that are, a little bit older? What are you seeing there?
It's so funny because we talk about, our foundation. It's a very young foundation. It started by, when we started the foundation, my partner and I were both under 30. And kind of coming from a background, my business partner is a professional athlete. I was a commercial real estate broker in downtown Los Angeles. And so it was a little bit different, but being able to harness, the 40 and over demographic was something out of the gate that we didn't focus on. But as we've gotten bigger and we've gotten, more involved, it's fantastic because so many of the young people that we are influencing, they all have parents, they all have grandparents. And, a perfect example is we had an event last night. And, I want to say that the majority of our demographic was 40 and over at these events. And so, there are a lot of people out there that still aren't using social media, which I completely understand. But how a lot of their friends and a lot of maybe their kids or their children, or kids and children, same thing, grandchildren and, friends and family are learning about things. They're being able to share that way. And so for us, it's really about initially kind of that's how we put things out there in regards to events and families that we're helping. But it's really reaching all sorts of demographics. And so for us, it's a lot of our events, I think, we started in this real young population, but now with what we've been able to do branding wise, we've got, and we'll talk about this merchandise and things later. But for us, we've got, 10-year-olds that love our brand and we've got 65-year-olds that love our brand. And so we've really been able to create a marketability to what we do. And if you are kind of take the emotion out of what we do day in and day out, because we're dealing with some really serious stuff with children and young people fighting cancer. But if you kind of take that emotion out really quickly and look at what we do from a business standpoint, we're helping young people with cancer. And unfortunately, with the world that we live in right now, it's affecting everybody. And so we really wanted to appeal to the 10-year-old and we want to appeal to the 70-year-old and everywhere in between. And I think our marketing and how we approach what we do, like I said, with the authenticity and the transparency of what we do day in and day out, I think people see that and it hasn't really mattered whether they're 10 or whether they're 70. I think people are able to see something and see the transparency in what's going on. So.
Awesome. And now to make things super simple, like on a tactical level, right? So for you had each of these sort of giving campaigns, talk to us a little bit about, the warriors, hashtags, and keywords. How did you make it easy for people to give?
So for us, what we call, so every time we get a new family member, so whether it's a child, a young adult, we call them warriors. And we have this thing called the Warrior Profile Project. And it's essentially a crowdfunding kind of business model. And so what we've been able to do is really, once we do get a new young person, we give them an online profile. We use the text to donate feature that MobileCause has. It's fantastic. And to take it a step further, right now, I mean, obviously the hashtag in all walks of life has been really utilized in the last 7 or 8 years. And so for us, it's really taking, like, we have a perfect example is we have a little girl in New York. Her name's Lenny, and we got connected with her, and Lenny's fighting a form of leukemia. And her family reached out to us. We got them a profile, and her keyword is love for Lenny. And it was hashtagged all over the place. And so it was a real perfect transition for us, and kind of the first time that we saw the powerfulness of the hashtag and the keyword, and how that was shared through her own community was amazing. From shirts that said hashtag love for Lenny, to text messages going out, to social media hashtags. It really kind of caught on like wildfire. And honestly, I think she raised through our nonprofit online and offline, I think she raised about $80,000 in I think like a 3.5 month period, which pretty fantastic. Her family's coming from a demographic that's, you know, a normal middle class family. And they were able to really utilize technology and utilize what we do, utilize our marketing, our branding, and we were able to, you know, offer them tools. And it's really been a huge aspect of what we do is utilizing the keywords and a lot of the tools that MobileCause provides.
Fantastic. And now kind of, you know, and obviously here's some examples on screen of, you know, some social posts that's, you know, similar again, right? Each of these warriors have a page. And I think just to make it super simple for everyone, you know, your keyword for your text to give and your hashtag were the same. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things that, you know, hashtags kind of really caught on because of Twitter. And it was something to where you could kind of hashtag something on Twitter and you could have direct contact with people. And so it was taking that hashtag idea and really kind of molding it and forming it to the MobileCause business model. And so having the keyword and having the, you know, the different hashtags, it was kind of like a no-brainer to put those two together. And so being able to put those two aspects together has become so important for so many of our families, because a lot of the times, by the time the family gets connected with our foundation, they've been dealing with the diagnosis probably for at least a month. And so their immediate family and friends are going to know what's going on already. And so once we're brought into the fold, we really kind of take what they've already been sharing, what they've already built, so to speak, and gone, okay, let's take that momentum and plug it into what we're doing. And that's been the easiest way that we've done it with the keyword and the hashtag. So it kind of really goes hand in hand.
Fantastic. And now quickly, because we actually have so much more ahead, and I want to make sure that we have enough time to address some of the questions we're getting to you, Matt, during the Q&A. So, you know, I think just quickly, I want everyone to see, you know, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you approached merchandise and how that's worked for helping grow the nonprofit.
Yeah, no problem. And I apologize. I'm definitely a chatty Cathy, so bear with me. But I think this goes back to your original question, and it was really talking about marketing and branding. And so for us, it was not only creating a foundation that, you know, and creating a way for us to help people, but in doing that, the most effective way to do it is through your branding and through your marketing and through merchandise. Because for us, you know, I saw the emergence of the TOMS model, the one-to-one model, and people felt like, wow, I can buy these shoes, and I know when I buy them that I'm giving a pair of shoes to somebody else in need, right? And so I was able to look at that business model and go, okay, I looked at the shoes, and honestly, I wasn't a huge fan out of the gate. I didn't like the way they looked, whatever it may be. But in really studying it and really looking at like mass psychology and why people get involved in things, I was able to look at that and go, it's just like how somebody buys a Rolex, right? Somebody buys a Rolex because not only is it a great timepiece, but it also maybe shows a level of success, or it shows people what you want them to feel about you. And so I was able to kind of take those concepts and bring that into what we do day in and day out. And so from a merchandise standpoint, our logo, what we do is very, very simple. Everything we try to do within our organization is simple. We try to simplify the giving process. We understand that the less clicks that you can have to somebody giving to your organization, giving to your level, and the better. Because, like I said, we live at these 15-second increments. So the easier you can make it, the better. And so for us, it was taking that into our merchandise going, let's make it as simple as we can and thought-provoking as we can. Our logo literally, we've got two right now that we kind of use for most things. We've got our circle logo that's a little bit more detailed, and then literally we've got a logo that's a rectangle, and it literally just says young with a lot, and then a line, and then brave. So it just says young brave. And we get so many questions about that, and it's a perfect opportunity for an influencer, for somebody like me as a co-founder, to explain, oh, this is, you know, my foundation, this is what we do, and it's been a huge piece for us. And so the biggest thing is really about giving people a way to show who they're giving to and go, because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, people want to give because they want to help, but most importantly, people want to give because they want to feel good about themselves. And so how can you give somebody a way to do that by simply wearing a hat, or like Tom's, putting a pair of shoes on? Everybody knows that, hey, I bought these shoes, which means I gave a pair of shoes to somebody else in need. And so we really have taken that idea of, look, you make choices every single day, like I said earlier, from the toothpaste you use to the watch that you wear to the hat that you may wear. Our hats are extremely successful, and people are buying them all over the country, all over the world. And so for us, it really, I always looked at something like American Red Cross. I gave to American Red Cross for a really, really long time. I still do, actually. But I'm never going to wear American Red Cross hat. It's just not branded well, I don't think. Some people may disagree, but I look at that and go, I'm never probably going to wear one of those hats. But if you look at our hats, it's one of those things that they're fashionable, they are a little bit thought-provoking, and it's something that you can wear to the gym, you can wear out to get a bite to eat, you can wear to the beach, you can wear to a sporting event, and you're going to create awareness just by doing that. And so for us, the merchandising goes hand in hand with branding. And the more people that know about who we are, the more families that we can help. So it's been a huge part of what we do, and I think it's a huge part of our branding and our marketing is the merchandise that we put out there for people to show how they support and who they support.
Fantastic, Matt. Terrific. And thanks so much for sharing all of that with us. So again,
Absolutely.
Everyone, please keep your questions coming in, and we'll get as many of them to Matt as we can and address as many as we can during the Q&A. And again, just a quick reminder before I introduce our next speaker, if you did miss anything, we will be sending a link to view and watch the recorded version of this webinar along with the slides. So you can share with colleagues and review anything you might have missed. So now I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Tess Srebro from VolunteerMatch. Tess has been fortunate enough to work at VolunteerMatch, where nonprofit and technology come together. She is fascinated by language and communications, which is how she found her way to marketing after some time in project management and operations. In her free time, she manages a book club, volunteers at a cat shelter, and enjoys all of the amazing things that San Francisco has to offer. Welcome, Tess. Thanks for joining.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So happy to be here.
Excellent. So we'd love to hear from you. And certainly, I think maybe you can first off, give us a quick, summary of VolunteerMatch. And then I got a couple of questions for you about some best practices in finding volunteers.
Sure. So VolunteerMatch is the web's largest volunteer engagement network. We run a free website to connect good people and good causes. So nonprofits who are looking for volunteers with people who want to volunteer. We've been around since 1998, so a pretty long time. And since that time, we've made over 10 million nonprofit volunteer connections and have about over 100,000 nonprofits in our network using our service and visitors per year. So the place to go if you're looking for volunteers.
Fantastic.
Or
And
if
so
you want to volunteer.
Yeah, and so in addition to using VolunteerMatch, like what are some of the best practices you've seen in sort of preparing to engage with volunteers and actually recruiting and engaging volunteers?
Yeah, so first I just want to talk about volunteer engagement overall because it's a changing field. It's no longer making sense for nonprofits to simply take whoever they can get, whoever wants to volunteer, and just feel that someone's interested. It's in order to actually grow your organization, you want to make sure that you're choosing volunteers, that you're actually figuring out how volunteers can best help your organization, and that you're making your volunteers feel appreciated and not being afraid to say no when someone's not the right fit for your organization. So how do you know if they're the right fit? You want to set out your expectations early. I would recommend writing clear position descriptions just the same way you would for any job to make sure that people know what they're getting into, know what training is needed, know what time commitment you're looking for. I see a lot of organizations who, someone comes or knocks on their door or whatever and says they're interested in volunteering, and then the organization will try to find a place for them. This works in some cases, but it actually is a lot more effective if you do it the other way around.
Terrific. And so I think to bring the thread back, right, like the purposes of this webinar, right, our main topic today is really the roadmap for growing, right? And we talked to Matt about branding and storytelling and merchandise. And, this section, we're really talking about how volunteers can really help us grow and accomplish some of those growth goals in 2016. And so, how do you best do that? What are some of your tips for actually, reaching, recruiting, and truly engaging the right volunteers once you've, identified, again, like through clear job descriptions, through making sure that people have clarity in their role? How do you get the most out of it?
Right. So, honestly, it's not easy. You can't just bring volunteers on and expect they're going to fill gaps. You need to have a strategic plan for your volunteer program, and that takes some initial upfront resources, the biggest being your time, to really figure out how volunteers can serve your organization best. And then also spend the time on volunteer appreciation activities and, actually managing and mentoring your volunteers, not just, having them come in, give them a little wave and leave again, So I would say that that's most important. In terms of actually finding and recruiting volunteers, the most under way to do that is word of mouth. You want to equip people who are familiar with your organization, whether or not you have current volunteers now, just people, staff supporters, and have them serve as brand ambassadors for your organization and really talk about the great work that you're doing and the impact that you're having. And that's going to inspire other people to want to get involved and give back. And a really good volunteer experience goes a long way. If people have a negative experience with you, they're going to talk about it. If they have a positive experience with you, they're going to talk about it as well. And nowadays, it's so easy to share things everywhere. It's not just going to be a conversation someone's having with a friend. It's going to be a social media post and things like that. And you want to encourage your volunteers and supporters to share your message on social media in different ways like that. So word of mouth, very powerful. Wait, can we go back to the next slide or last slide there? Okay, sorry. Yeah, and then I would also say just not only promoting your volunteer program on your social media and blogs, but also, like I said, encouraging your volunteers to do so. And if you're looking to find more volunteers, check out VolunteerMatch.org.
Fantastic. And I think, again, that kind of reiterates a little bit of the things that Matt's talking about is leverage your volunteers to share their stories, right?
Exactly. You don't have to do it all yourself.
Right. And that's obviously, so you may have jobs that the volunteers are doing, but certainly every one of them, if engaged, can help share your story.
Mm-hmm.
So now in terms of partnering with for-profits, what are some of the best practices and tips that you've seen have really worked and are important to keep in mind?
Yeah, so this is becoming more and more of a trend by the day where companies want to give back in more ways than just, writing a check to a nonprofit. They're seeing the benefits of engaging their employees in volunteer events. It's good for team building, it's good for skills building, and it also, it makes people happy. Volunteering makes people happy. So a lot of more companies are reaching out to nonprofits to form partnerships, have volunteer events, volunteer days, things like that. And this can be a huge benefit to your nonprofit, but it also is a lot of work. So first, I would make sure you determine that you have the capacity in order to take on a partnership like this, to meet with the company ahead of time, lay out the groundwork for what's going to happen, have shared expectations. If you're planning on doing a one-day event with a corporation, just always have a backup plan in case less people show up than anticipated.
And how about some of your sort of truths about volunteering? What are some of the things that people may not realize, or things that you've learned and seen from experience that you'd recommend?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've talked about a lot already is just empowering your volunteers to share your message, and not only doing that through equipping them with knowledge and talking points, but also making sure that they're having good experiences that they want to share. Planning ahead of time, really knowing what you want out of your volunteer program before you create it, before you go making changes, new volunteers. Every single volunteer role that you have in your organization should be strategic and thought about. And let's see what else. I also want to say a lot of times nonprofits put volunteers and donors into two separate silos, whereas in actuality there's a potential for a huge overlap. People who volunteer with an organization are way more likely to also donate to an organization than people who haven't volunteered, and vice versa. The people who may start out giving donations and then are interested in volunteering. When someone supports your organization, they support it because of your mission, and they're going to want to help in whatever way they can. And I guess just really focusing on volunteer appreciation, making sure that your volunteers know how awesome they are, and that show them the impact that they're having at your organization.
Fantastic. And I guess just, one final thought. Do you have, and maybe it's just to restate anything that you've already said, but what's sort of the one final thought you'd want to leave with everyone that you think is sort of the key to success in getting the most out of volunteers?
Well, one final thought, that's a lot of pressure. I guess I would say it would be volunteer appreciation, and just making sure that your volunteers are happy and want to come back for more. Because a negative volunteer experience, people will talk about that. So.
Right. And really the takeaway I'm getting is that it's almost better to have fewer volunteers, but those that you can actually engage with more effectively and appreciate, than having a tremendous number of volunteers that you can't get the most out of, you don't have the ability to appreciate. Is that sort of your take on the situation?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at volunteers the way you would look at any other staff. If you're having high turnovers of volunteers, it's going to take more time and resources from you. You have to retrain people, re-recruit people. It makes sense to have those volunteers stick around, right? It just makes financial sense for you. So yeah, focusing on a few volunteers to start, and then, once you get that down, you can scale up.
Fantastic. And thank you so much, Tess. And we are going to be going over the time a little bit because we have so much great content. So Tess is going to stick around if you have any questions specifically for her about volunteers and about how to use VolunteerMatch. Obviously, you can also go to volunteermatch.org, I believe. Is that right?
VolunteerMatch.org, yes.
Yep.
And it's all free.
Perfect. So I would definitely encourage everyone to do so. So now moving on quickly, I know we had some questions about exactly how MobileCause works, and I want to reintroduce Jeremy Koenig, who's going to talk to us specifically about 5 donor engagement solutions that you can use right now. Welcome, Jeremy. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks, Chris. First, I just want to give a shout out to Matt and Tess. Thank you so much for your insight. I truly believe, just listening to this for myself, that everybody that's on the call, if we are to implement just a couple of these strategies, we will absolutely have a roadmap for success next year, as well as in the last 3 weeks of the giving season. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about the top 5 donor engagement solutions right now, and I put in red here, and why your nonprofit should sign up before the end of the year. Just a quick reminder, 30% of all U.S. donations happen in the month of December, and 10% will happen in the last 3 days of the year. So it is incredibly important that you make it as easy as possible for people to give and for people to be engaged with your nonprofit during a time when we're traveling, and when we're with family, and when the only device we really look at is our smartphone. All right, solution number 1, empower volunteers, teams, and corporations to collect donations with crowdfunding pages during the last 3 weeks of the year. I have this great example from Compass to Care. This is how it works. You actually take a mobile-friendly crowdfunding sign-up form, and you can put it right on your website, or you can put it. It could be a direct link that you can send people directly to. After filling out that form, your volunteers, teams, corporations will get a link back via text and email, and they simply upload their statement, their photo, and their goal, and they get their own crowdfunding page to be able to collect donations that go actually directly to your organization. Incredible tool. It's not too late. Still have 3 weeks to empower all of your most important ambassadors to be able to go out and do this. The second solution is specifically, you want to be able to make it as convenient as possible for donors to make year-end donations from any device in response to direct mail, email, and social media. Just to take a brief moment to talk about the way that the Young and the Brave Foundation has implemented our solutions. What they've actually done is they have created unique donation forms for each one of their patients. The beauty of MobileCause is that each donation form that you set up has a corresponding keyword for specifically asking people for donations in person, short link specifically for sharing across social media and digital channels, and QR code for sharing on print, which we'll get to in a minute, and in direct mail. And again, all people have to do is click a link and put in their information to make a gift on their smartphone. And you can see here the examples of what that looks like on a phone, what that looks like embedded on a website homepage, and even what that looks like embedded on Facebook. Incredible tool, still a great opportunity to capture lots of donations over the next 3 weeks when people are truly eager to give, and it's your job to engage them in a way that they will see. Solution number 3, we want to ensure that you reach your year-end goals by collecting donations and displaying real-time results at events and online. You noticed on the Young and the Brave pages, each patient has their own fundraising page, as I just mentioned, and there's actually a thermometer above it. It is amazing how much more people give and how much more people are excited to give when they see their donations working with other donations to reach a goal. We have seen across the board a 25 to 35% increase when nonprofits take donations of all types: cash, check, envelopes, offline donations, matching gifts, as well as gifts made live at events, and display them on screen. You see here the way that it works is people simply text a keyword followed by an amount and a message, and then that text message automatically appears on screen, which most people project on a projector in some type of facility, and then it raises the thermometer, and then immediately that person who sent the text message receives a link back with a link to click, reply message back with a link to click and fulfill their pledge very easily from a mobile-friendly donation form. One of the other incredible elements about keywords that you may or may not know is when people text, they're actually subscribed to receive ongoing communications from you that have a 99% open read rate as you move forward into future campaigns. And in addition to that, anyone who texts a keyword, they actually automatically receive 3 text message reminders, which significantly increase pledge fulfillment up into the 80, 90, and 100% range, depending on how good you do with your call to action, your follow-up. Solution number 4, we want you to be able to share year-end goals and results and remind donors to complete last-minute gifts in a way that is impossible to miss. If you don't know, there's a special provision in the TCPA, Telephone Protection Consumer Act, in America that says that nonprofits can actually upload lists of their constituents, donors and supporters, and send them a text message. It's an incredible opportunity. We have seen again and again that when text messages are sent with links that correspond to social media posts and email posts and direct mail drops, it is a significant increase for the simple reason that people see it. They see it in more than one place. And then again, for those who want to donate easily and quickly from their mobile phone, because it's the place where they make most of their purchases, they can easily do so. And lastly, we want all of our nonprofits to be able to make it as easy as possible for people to go online and donate in response to direct mail and printed collateral. I've got an example here where if I were to get this in the mail and I said to myself, it's very inconvenient for me to write a check or to figure out a way to give cash. I really want to give with my credit card, but on the other hand, I don't want to go to a website that may or may not be mobile friendly, to a long URL that might be hard to type. So they would essentially have 3 options to give easily online. They can scan a QR code. They can go to manually type in a short link, in this case, safedonate.us/lion, or they can just text LION to 41444, which again initiates the whole pledge function in which they are subscribed to receive mobile alerts as well as subscribed to receive 3 text message reminders. These are the 5 reasons that we believe here at MobileCause that every nonprofit on the call should sign up for a MobileCause account as quickly as possible. We have very flexible payment options. We want to be invested with each of you, just as we are with the Young and the Brave Foundation, for the long haul. And we want to ensure that you not only have great branding, great storytelling, but that you are actually able to engage your donors with an effective donor engagement plan that makes it easy for every age of donor and every type of nonprofit for people to give easily. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Chris. We've got about 10 to 15 minutes left to answer as many questions as we can. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Jeremy. And thanks again, everybody, for attending today. We will be sending out a link to view and listen to the recorded version along with the slides, so you can refresh your memory on all of this great stuff we've been talking about today. So quickly, I'd love to dive in and get to as many as we can. So please do keep submitting them in the chat. But first up, Matt, question for you. You talked a lot about branding, and I know a lot of the folks that are listening, maybe just a 1 or 2 person, either marketing team or a 1 or 2 person run nonprofit. What would you say in terms of like the number of resources and budget that it's taken? I mean, you guys have done such a fantastic job from a branding standpoint. How did you do that? And how can others with limited resources do the same?
Well, that's a huge thing that I'm incredibly proud of. I think for us, we didn't start the nonprofit as a tax shelter. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we really started it out of necessity. But with that being said, we didn't have a giant budget. We really started this thing, myself, my business partner, who's one of my best friends, we started with $2,500. Literally what we started it with. And for us, since getting our 501c3 in March of 2011, we've been able to give away over $700,000 directly to our families and warriors that we support. And we've done that on a budget of less than $25,000, which if you look at a lot of nonprofits, it's, we gave away $1 million, but it cost us $5 million to do it. We really have been able to create a brand and a nonprofit through the use of tools that are essentially free. And a lot of that has to do with with social media. I know that's probably not what a lot of people want to hear, but it's incredibly powerful. And for us, it's something that we don't exist without those tools. And, things like Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram and Periscope and Twitter, all those things are free. And it's a perfect way to engage your donors, engage your audience, engage the people that you want to help. And it gives each and every one of those people a perfect way to give back and to show how they're giving back. So to me, I can't emphasize that enough, that, even if you're running an organization that's been around for a long time, and maybe you have people that are, with your foundation that maybe aren't, super well-spoken or really understand a lot of these social media tools. The best thing that I can say is there's so many universities out there with kids looking for internships and ways to get involved and give back. And I can pretty much guarantee all those young people are going to know how to use social media and how to help you really capture an audience and really, make an impact with real, limited amounts of, financial implications.
Terrific. And now here's a question for Tess. Tess, what would you say is sort of the main motivator for engaging a volunteer? Like, why is it, what is it about an organization that specifically makes a volunteer choose them over another?
I think that there's a lot of factors with that. A lot of times you would think they would be drawn towards organizations that, they're really passionate about the cause, and that's really true. But what we're seeing more and more is, especially in the millennial generation, people are choosing to volunteer at organizations that they can use their specialized skills to volunteer, rather than just, finding a cause area. They want to feel like they're doing something useful and valuable with their time, because, they feel like a lot of people can, do filing or pack boxes and things like that. So giving volunteers options for skilled volunteer positions, I think, is becoming one of the main draws to an organization. And like I said earlier, just also being able to know the impact that the organization is having, to feel like you are part of something that's really making a difference.
Right. And that really ties into, in a way, like what Matt was talking about in terms of, what you mentioned about specialized skills. And are you seeing that may be an opportunity for people that are needing like some of these like social media, graphic design, branding skills? Are you seeing that there's an opportunity for nonprofits to get volunteers in those specialized skill areas?
Absolutely. Because, it's not only a way for people to use the skills that they already have, it's a way for them to develop skills. So, if you bring on a volunteer to help out with social media, maybe someone who has a little bit of experience with it, but really wants to learn and develop that skill, that's something that they can go and then put on their resume when they're applying for jobs. So, a win-win for everyone.
Right. So again, I would encourage everyone, I think that point couldn't be understated. Like everyone who's wondering, how do I get these things done? How do I do all the social media stuff that maybe comes natural to Matt, and some of the, his colleagues. But I think you can certainly find volunteers that want to hone their skills, use their skills to help you. So now I'm going to shift direction just a little bit and back to you, Jeremy. And this is a question about faith-based organizations. Like, I've seen a couple of questions, and I know we get this a lot, and I know you have a lot of experience in this area. Like, how does this apply or not apply? Like, how can you, to a faith-based organization, and are people that are promoting faith-based organizations, are they comfortable using these types of solutions in social media and other things? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I think the biggest difference between traditional nonprofit fundraising and faith-based fundraising is that you want to do a great job of making people realize that they're giving, and they're giving to something that's really important. and that you care more about them as a donor and their participation in your mission than the dollars that they give. And so the short answer to the question is 100%. I come from a background of faith-based fundraising, and people are in faith-based organizations are incredibly passionate. They're incredibly zealous and willing to give, and making it as easy as possible for them to do so from any device, and for them to stay up to date in all the amazing things that you're doing works just as well for faith-based organizations as it does for traditional nonprofit organizations.
Terrific. And now back to you, Matt, quickly. What are your thoughts in terms of like engaging content? How do you create content that, can engage people in 15 seconds and not give too little or too much? What are your thoughts on actually creating great content that sort of really engages people?
I think that kind of goes hand in hand with what I was talking about in regards to marketing. When it comes to content, you want to make it simple, especially when it comes to social media. Something like Instagram has got 15 seconds of video or picture feed, and then it's on to the next thing while you're scrolling. So for us, I think the simplicity in the content that you're sharing, and it's about being creative. And I think, diving into some of the volunteer conversation, it's about engaging those volunteers to help you develop that content, to go, how are you giving back? Share that with us so that we can share it on our social media, how we can share it on our webpage, how we can share it with our other volunteers or potential new volunteers. And then even more importantly, how can you create that simple content to get in front of new donors and for people to see about your cause and what your cause does. And so I really harp on simplicity in what you're doing and being creative and innovative with what you're doing. But you can do that in a real simple way. And I think it's easy for people to consume, and it's easy for people to remember and then hopefully engage in what you're doing.
Awesome. And now, another question for Tess in terms of materials that are really important in the planning stage of before you engage with volunteers. When we talked, that was kind of something you really emphasized. And again, maybe I think it could be understated. What are the couple of key things that you think people need to do before actually going out to try and engage and recruit volunteers?
So don't do it alone. You want to, figure out your volunteer engagement strategy at a high level in your organization. If, really get the buy-in of your executive director, really show different departments, if you're a large organization, your different departments, why volunteers are important, how they can help different departments, and really understand the needs of your organization before starting to recruit for volunteers. I think that's really important. And also just planning out the recruiting process. I think I mentioned earlier, writing actual position descriptions for the volunteers, figuring out what training is going to be necessary, what training materials you need to put together, interview questions to just do a general get to know you interview with the volunteer is all important to put together before the volunteer walks through your door.
Terrific. And now shifting gears again back to Jeremy, in terms of, all of this content and, with MobileCause, people can easily text message, communicate in a variety of other channels through MobileCause. What are you seeing in terms of unsubscribes? Are people getting, how do you avoid people unsubscribing, and what are the kind of trends in terms of that?
Yeah, really great question. We've actually started to see the truth of how people like to be communicated with and how people like to be asked to give. And this year, here's the easiest way that I can explain it. People that want to receive text messages are going to receive text messages, and they're going to be very happy to get them. And if they don't want to, there is not a channel that is easier to unsubscribe from. Your donors can simply reply, stop, and they're off the list. That being said, sending emails, sending social media posts, sending text messages, and then again, sending direct mail and handwritten thank you notes are all really, really important, because what it actually does is it engages different types of people in different demographics. to drive this point home, the Young and the Brave Foundation, I guarantee there's not a 10-year-old ambassador that isn't incredibly excited to get a text message, let alone a 30-year-old. There may be a few 45, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 that they don't want to get texts, but they might not want to get email either, or they might only read their social media wall. And so our recommendation is that if you want to drive the maximum amount of participation with your nonprofit and drive the maximum amount of donations, it is incredibly important that you utilize multi-channel marketing, which text messaging is actually a pivotal component of, because it is a 99% open rate.
And just a follow-on question to that, what are you seeing in terms of, because, we all know, like, it takes multiple touches, so to speak, to really get a message across, right? Like sending one message one time in one channel isn't going to do the job, right? So is there sort of an optimal number that you've seen or would recommend?
Yeah, I would say send them in conjunction, and however you set up your donors' expectations to receive communications, stay faithful to that. So for example, if you tell people to text a keyword or fill out a form so that they can get a daily update, then send a daily update. If you tell them that you're going to send out a roll-up of all the good you've been doing once a month, then do that. But again, make sure that you are utilizing each channel. And just a tip here, you're creating great campaign material, and you have great links and videos and photographs. Simply just send those in a text with a link, send them in an email with a big button, put them on social media posts with a great big photo or video that engages. And to your oldest, perhaps most important donors, make sure you send it to them in a way that they can read. That would be my best practice tip.
Awesome. That's some gold right there. And so question back to Matt. And I know thanks everybody for sticking around a little bit. We're just going to have, here's final questions for everyone. And again, we are recording and we will be sending out the link. So if you do have to drop, we hope you don't, but if you do, we will be sending out the recorded version so you can, review anything you may have missed. But final question to you, Matt. In terms of local, right? You guys have done amazing local, but also global. Like, how do you make a local community global?
That's one of the first things that we really thought about when we were building the foundation. And like you said, it's twofold, because at the end of the day, people are impacted and they want to make a difference in the community that they live. So whether it's a church, whether it's a school, a workplace, whatever it may be, you want to be able to utilize that community. But we also are in a world now to where I can order something literally from the other side of the world and I can have it on my doorstep tomorrow. And so how do you take that reality and use that for your nonprofit, for your philanthropy? And so for us, it kind of also goes into what was being talked about in regards to some of the volunteering aspect and collaboration aspect. Businesses, for-profit businesses, they want to get involved in what's going on because they need positive PR. They want to help. They're doing well financially, and they want to, figure out a way to give. And so for us, it's really been about saying yes. And really, for us, it like I said earlier, influence is new currency. And for us, we've never really been worried about the actual financial aspect of our donations. And I know that goes a little bit away from MobileCause and what we're talking about here today. But in regards to creating a global organization, we are able to, we know about things happening on the other side of the planet instantly. And so that goes a long way with how you share information, how we consume information. And then it also goes into, being able to be global in your thinking, global in your branding, global in your marketing. And so for us, it's really been about being strategic about the partnerships that we make, but also utilizing those partnerships that, maybe are in Australia, maybe are in Europe, maybe are in Brooklyn, and really giving those people a way to make an impact, not only financially, but also on an influence level. And that goes hand in hand with social media. And I know I've really kind of harped on social media, but in regards to the way that we give and the way that we receive donations and volunteers and how those volunteers get involved, it's really about having somebody influence their own community, but doing it on a global level, because there's communities all across the country, from different states to different neighborhoods to different countries. And it's about utilizing that community on different scales and understanding that, okay, this person may not have a global impact, but they're going to be incredibly impactful in their neighborhood. And maybe this person travels full time, so their impact is going to be across the country. And then maybe, taking an athlete that's going to be in the United States for 2 weeks and then in China, and then from China to Beijing, and then from Beijing to Europe, and taking that person's sphere of influence and going, okay, they don't live, their community is global, and there are people and influencers that really kind of live in that type of space. And it's about trying to create what's the word I'm looking for? Really diversity in the people that are supporting your brand. If you're trying to create a global brand, you're going to really need to be diverse in the people that you bring on board, not only volunteers, but maybe board members, different types of influencers. So it's really about just understanding what your business model is, what your mission is, and then if you're trying to take it to a global level, being really conscious and intent, being intent on what you're trying to do. And really, I'll say this more than anything, creating a great business model and really following it has been a huge part of our success.
Fantastic, Matt. And again, I wanted to thank everyone. We've kind of reached the end of our time here. So I'd love to thank our speakers. Matt, you, of course. Tess, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, thanks for having us. Hopefully,
thank you.
I know I was a little chatty Cathy, but hopefully was able to share some good information. So thank you.
We're so super grateful to both of you, and of course my colleague Jeremy for sharing all of his wisdom, and everyone for joining us today. Again, as a reminder, we will be sending out a link to view and watch the recording along with the slides. Also, feel free to go to mobilecause.com/demo. We have a fantastic customer success team. So a lot of these real specific questions, even down to Facebook and other instances, a lot of the things we covered today, our customer success team is built to help you all get your questions answered and help you get the most out of all of these things. So I'd encourage you to engage with us. You can also get plenty of resources at mobilecause.com/resources. There's a whole set of other recorded webinars, white papers, a lot of great tips. So I'd encourage all of you to check that out. And again, thanks everyone. Have a great day.